Is my screen visible? Can you let me confirm this? Okay. So, hello students. We will today we will get to know about the chapter 8 of class 10, which will be coming in our term 2 of the examinations. Okay. So, the chapter 8 is how do organisms reproduce. It is how do organisms reproduce. So, it's not about just humans. This question is not about just humans. It is about all the living beings which are created in this world. So how does they reproduce and act? Okay, so let's we discuss about this. First of all, organisms reproduce through two methods, mainly sexual method and asexual method. While in both the methods they reproduce by their body. Okay, in both the methods they reproduce by their own. Now, in both the methods, do they reproduce their exact types or do they create variations? And if they create variations, why do they create variations? That we need to know actually. First of all, we will know about this, that do they give the exact copies? Sorry, exact copies. Yes, many of the organisms give their own exact copies. And these particular exact copies of theirs is called as clones. When they give the exact copies, they are called as clones. They give exact copies when only single parent is involved, mostly. Okay, they give exact copies only when the single parent is involved. And they give variations, when more than one parent is involved. Now, variations and clones. What is the difference in both of them? Variations are those when it is needed to create or make habitual with the environment. When you have to be habitual with the environment, like the increase or decrease of temperature, also with the capability of pressure. When you have to be habitual with the pressure, then variations are very important. You can't be in the particular environment if the temperature maintains to be increased now and then. Okay, so that's why variations are very helpful. Now, exact copies or clones, why they are helpful? Because clones make their environment to be habitual to their likes. Like if one organism is getting everything that it needs to be in food, then its daughter cells or its sisters or its like will get the same environment to live in. So that's why clones are important, and in the same way variations are also important. Okay, now we will let us confirm about the different types of reproduction. Now we had understood what are clones, what are the exact copies, then what are variations. Now we will understand about the types of reproduction. Reproductions are mainly of two types, which I had said earlier, that are sexual and asexual. These are the two types. Now, basically, what are the differences in them? Asexual reproduction is when the single parent is involved. When single parent is involved, it is called as asexual reproduction. And sexual reproduction when two parents or more than one parent is involved. That is called as sexual reproduction. Okay. Now, in this very class, we will first learn about the sexual reproduction. in detail. So, asexual reproduction is the most conservative way of reproduction in which only single parent or sometimes a single cell is needed. Single parent or sometimes single cell is needed. The different types of asexual reproduction are: first one is fission, second one is fragmentation. We will learn all of them in detail. First, we are listing them. What are they? Fission, fragmentation. Third one is regeneration. Regeneration. Fourth is spore formation. Spore formation. And fifth one is vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation. Okay, so let's know about them. First one is fission. What is fission? Let's learn. Fission is when single parent divides itself in different cells or different types of like their own. Okay, that is called as fission. Like a single cell divides itself into two or more than two, that is called as fission. Fission could be of two types. First one is binary and second one is multiple. Okay. Binary fission is when a single cell divides into two. This is called as binary fission. And multiple fission is when a single cell divides into more than two cells. That is called as multiple fission. This is the binary and this is the multiple. Also, what are the examples for this? Binary fission is mostly seen in amoeba. This is an organism which we can't see through our naked eyes. Okay. And multiple fission is mostly seen in Plasmodium. So these are the two in which fission could be seen. Binary fission is in amoeba and multiple fission is in Plasmodium. Okay. Now, I think fission is understood well. We will move to the next type of asexual reproduction, that is fragmentation. What is fragmentation? It is quite clear from the name itself that in fragmentation, the fragments are created. What are fragments? Fragments are different parts. In this particular type of asexual reproduction, fragmentation or different parts are created or small pieces of a particular body is created. Small pieces of parent body is created. And these small pieces give generation to or give birth to or give reproduction of new daughter cells. This is called as fragmentation. Now, fragmentation, for a fragmentation, what is the example? Exact examples of fragmentation is Spirogyra. Spirogyra. Okay. Now, next is we have learned about binary fission, we have learned about multiple fission, we have learned about fragmentation. Next one is regeneration. Regeneration. What is regeneration? Sometimes regeneration and fragmentation both are actually sometimes seem to be similar, but they are not at all similar. Regeneration is different and fragmentation is different. In regeneration, they give rise to any body part. It gives rise to any body part, any part of body which regenerates into a new daughter cell. Which regenerates into a new daughter cell. Okay, so that's what's called as regeneration. These body parts in which through which the giving rise to a new daughter cell, that particular body part has specialized cells. It has an specialized cells which could proliferate. What do you mean by proliferate? Proliferate is the meaning that they could divide, proliferate and generate new cells. This is called as regeneration. Okay, and regeneration is mostly seen in planaria. Planaria is a type of organism in which regeneration is mostly seen. Okay, now next after regeneration, what is the next one? Next one is budding. Now, what does happen in budding actually? In budding, a particular plant or a particular organism generates an outgrowth on its own body. It generates an outgrowth on body, and this particular outgrowth is called as what? It is called as bud. Then this bud grows and grows, and then it gets mature and gets mature, and after it gains maturity, it detaches from plant body or the parent body. It detaches from the parent body. This is how a bud grows, and it detaches from the parent body, and after detaching itself from the parent body, it attaches with the soil from which it can get nutrition. And hence through budding it reproduces. This is the particular daughter cell in budding. Okay, so through budding, which organism reproduces? Example for budding is hydra. It reproduces through budding. Okay, after budding, next one for us is spore formation. Spore formation. In spore formation, what happens mainly? In spore formation, have you seen braid mold? Braid mold, which grows on braid. When braid is kept for a long time in moistured environment, in moistureful environment, when a braid is kept, it gets mold over it. It has a colored, greenish structure formed all over it, and this green structure is called as braid mold. Okay, so this is actually the spores which are formed over bread. Okay, now what is the name of this particular bread mold called? It is called as rhizopus. It is called as Rhizopus. Rhizopus is the braid mold which grows over the braid when we keep it for a long time in moisture environment. That is called as rhizopus. Now, what happens actually in rhizopus? Like a braid is kept for a long time in environment, in moisture environment. The green colored rhizopus grown over it. It is actually seen like this, but actually it has like this body like, and they form spores over their last end. Here spores are formed over their last end. Okay, and these spores after some time gets detached when they get mature. When they get detached, they fall over the braid again, and the daughter spores which fall over the braid again undergo spore formation for the next time. This is how they reproduce. Okay, this is the formation of spores. These are called as spores. So this was the fourth main particular reproduction type of asexual reproduction. Last one is vegetative propagation. Now, what is actually vegetative propagation? In vegetative propagation, vegetative propagation does not come under asexual reproduction. It is a type of asexual reproduction which takes place in plants. Okay. But in your NCRTs, it is given under the asexual reproduction itself, vegetative propagation. In vegetative propagation, what is it actually? Actually, it is the asexual reproduction, asexual reproduction asexual reproduction in plants. Asexual reproduction in plants. That is called as vegetative propagation. In this particular type of asexual reproduction, plants grow their daughter cells from the body parts that they have already gained in their body. Okay, like through roots, they can grow through roots, or they can grow through stems, or they can grow through leaves, or anything, any one of these. They grow through any one of these, and thus they give the production. Wait a second. Through roots, then through leaves, or then through stems. Okay, so they give vegetative propagation to any one of these. Okay, now roots, leaves, and stems. These are the different means through which they can propagate vegetatively for the formation of new plants or species. Is it clear now? Okay. Now, next is about tissue culture. We have to understand about tissue culture after vegetative propagation. Actually, through vegetative propagation, I have not given the examples for vegetative propagation. What are the examples for vegetative propagation actually? And it has some different types of characteristics also. In vegetative propagation, the plants get flowers and fruits. These plants get flowers and fruits earlier from sexual plants. Actually, those plants which produce or which reproduce sexually, before them, the vegetative propagated plants get flowers and fruits. Okay. So why is it so? Because in vegetative propagation, only single parent is involved. in this particular, only single parent is involved, and the single parent can reproduce at a faster rate than two parents which are involved in sexual reproduction. So that's why in vegetative propagation, flowers and fruits occur earlier than the sexual ones. Is it clear now? Now, what are the examples for vegetative propagation? Some examples are like banana, then orange. Okay. Some are like this. Okay, I think it is quite understood till now. Next is about, hello sir, am I audible? Okay, it is quite understood now. Next we have to learn about, okay, banana, orange, then one more is there, rose. Next is about, we have to learn is tissue culture. We have understood all the types of asexual reproductions till now. We will get a revision at the end. Okay, now we will understand about the tissue culture. What is tissue culture actually? Tissue culture is something that is done artificially to grow the plants which we want actual or according to our needs. Okay, tissue culture is an artificial means of growing plants. Artificial means of growing plants. That is called as actually tissue culture. Now, what is the procedure of growing plants in tissue culture is? First of all, what is done here is, let's take another canvas here and we will learn about it separately. First step in tissue culture is, in first step, the plants are collected through which from which we have to grow the new plant. The plants are collected first of all from which the new plant has to be grown. Okay. Then after taking or collection of these plants, the removing tissue or separating cells is done. What is removing tissue or separating cells? Actually, it is the removal of tissue or separating cells. We will understand this sentence in detail. Actually, removal of tissues is because the tissues which are helpful for reproduction, those tissues are removed or cells are separated from the actual body part of the plants. Okay, so these tissues are removed or separated and they are grown in a medium, grown in a medium grown in a medium for their full development. Full development. Okay, so this particular medium is the artificial way or artificial medium which is prepared by the researchers or the scientists or the humans who are growing the particular plant in artificial manner. Okay, so they are grown in a medium for their full development, and after they are developed fully or get matured, they are transferred to another medium. They are transferred to another medium which possess hormones for their growth. Hormones for growth. Actually, different hormones are required for plants as well to grow. Some of them, like cytokinins or gibberellins, like this, different hormones are required. Actually, these particular hormones are not yet in your chapter or in your syllabus. That's why I'm not discussing them here. But these hormones are required for their particular growth, and hence they are transferred to another medium in which all the hormones are present. Okay. After transferring them to the hormonal medium or in the medium where hormones are present, after growing from there, when they get mature enough to grow on their own, then these particular plants or daughter plants are transferred to soil, where they get full nutrition for further growth or for reproduction of other plants. Okay, they are transferred to soil. And mostly this tissue culture is helpful for growing the ornamental plants. That is, those plants which are only used for showing. Ornamental plants. Mostly they are grown through tissue culture. Okay, so what are these steps we have learned in tissue culture? First of all, the selected plants are collected through which the tissue culture has to be performed or artificial way has to be performed for the production of plants. After that, the particular plants which are collected, their removal of tissues or cells is done, separation of cells is done, in which cells or tissues could be separated through which new plant has to be grown. Okay, these tissues or cells which are separated are specialized ones which have the capability to regenerate themselves for new plants. So these particular tissues or special cells are separated and they are transferred to a medium. In that particular medium, all types of nutrition is present. In that particular medium, all nutrients are present, which are very important for all nutrients are present, which are very important for a particular plant to grow. After they get mature enough in that particular medium, in the first medium, They are transferred to the second medium. Now, this second medium contains all the type of hormones which are required for their growth. They get all the type of hormones which are required for their growth, so they are transferred to the second medium. After their fully growth or full growth in the hormonal medium, they are transferred to the soil or in the nature. There they get the extra nutrition which is helpful for them. After they get full nutrition from soil, the particular plant or the parent plant, another parent plant is ready for the next reproduction cycle. So in this way, the tissue culture or the artificial way of preparing plants is done. Now, this particular type of tissue culture or this particular type of reproduction is done for which plants? It is done for ornamental. Is it clear? Okay. So whatever we have learned till now, we have learned about the asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, there are different types of asexual reproduction techniques. They are, first one is fission. First one is fission. It is mainly done through two ways, binary fission and multiple fission. And it is mainly processed in amoeba. And examples are amoeba and plasmodium. Okay. Next one is after fission, it was fragmentation. Fragmentation. In this, the different fragments or different body parts develop into a new plant body. This is called as fragmentation. After this was the regeneration. In this, specialized cells regenerate themselves into new plant body. The example for regeneration was planaria. Example for fragmentation was planaria. And example for regeneration was spirogyra. Okay. Don't be confused in both of these. Actually, they have very little difference between them. Next, after regeneration, we have studied about budding. In this, a small bud is used from the plant body to develop a new full generation or a new plant body. So that particular outgrowth is called as bud. And in budding, the example is hydra. I would clarify here that each and everything that you learn should be gained with the examples. Actually, examples are very important in the exams. So please do take this as a note that examples are very much required when you explain something. So in all these types of asexual reproduction, these are the particular examples. These are the particular organisms in which these asexual reproduction techniques go through. Okay, now here vegetative reproduction or vegetative propagation I have not listed here because it does not come under asexual reproduction. It is a type of asexual reproduction which takes in plant system. Okay, so that's why I have not listed here. These are all the organisms, or we should say these are all the animals in which the asexual reproduction takes place. Now, what type of questions will there be made from this particular part which we have studied today? So let's cover all the questions right here now. First of all, we have studied that exact copies are made through reproduction. So it might be asked that why does copies are required? Like some question might come like why does asexual reproduction has exact copies or make clones, exact copies of daughter cells. So in this particular question, how will you answer? It is because in asexual reproduction, only a single parent is involved and that particular single parent passes on its 100% chromosomes, or we should say 100% nucleic part to the next generation. And that's why no variation could be seen in sexual reproduction, and hence the daughter cells look alike the parent cells. That's why they make exact copies, and hence they are called as clones. Okay. Now, a second question might be asked like, what is variation? What is variation? Now, what is variation actually? Variation is something seen, variation is the difference, the actual difference which could be seen in the organisms of the same species or the daughter cells of the same species, that are called variations. And variations might be seen due to temperature or pressure or mutants like this. Okay, and why is it very compulsory to be happen? Because if the variation comes abruptly, then it might vanish whole of the species. So it is important that variation come with time, after some time or after some time, like from in one generation, first generation is able to live in a particular type of environment, like in low temperatures, and the second generation is able to live, second generation is able to live in a little high temperature, little high. So this is actually what called as variation. Okay, so it comes from generation to generation. Not actually the variation happens abruptly. If it happens abruptly, the species might vanish, and these species can't be seen anymore in that particular type of environment. Okay, now this is the answer for this particular question. Next question might be asked from this particular session is like, what is a sexual reproduction, or what are types of reproduction? What are the types of reproduction? What are the types of reproduction? So reproduction are mainly of two types: sexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is one where two single parent is involved, and sexual reproduction is one where two parents are involved. In asexual reproduction, no variations could be seen, exact copies are made, and in sexual reproduction, variations could be seen as two parents are involved. So therefore, something different could be seen in the daughter cells. Okay. Now, next question could be asked like, what are the different kinds of asexual reproduction? It could be like kinds of asexual reproduction. What are the different kinds of asexual reproduction? So here in this session, I have covered all kinds of asexual reproduction. They could be fission, binary fission or multiple fission. They could be fragmentation, in which different body parts or fragments are divided and they give rise to a new generation or new daughter cell. Next, it could be regeneration, through which new generation could be regenerated fully from a small piece or small part of a plant. Next is budding. It is through the outgrowth or a bud which develops over the plant body or parent body in order to reproduce asexually. Okay, so these are the different kinds of reproduction, asexual reproduction. Next question which might be asked from this session is like, what is vegetative propagation? What is vegetative propagation? So vegetative propagation is something vegetative propagation is something when a plant reproduces asexually, that is called as vegetative propagation. When a plant reproduces asexually, that is called as vegetative propagation. And it could be through roots, or it could be through leaves, or it could be through stems. These are the different means through which vegetative reproduction could be done. Now, examples you can also mention in this. Examples for vegetative proposition are banana, orange, rose, and all of these are comes under vegetative proposition. Also, you can write different characteristics of vegetative proposition. Like in vegetative proposition, the plants give flowers and fruits or earlier than the plants which reproduce sexually. Actually, because the plants which reproduce sexually, they have to undergo through two parents, and the asexual in the asexual way of reproduction, they have to go under to only single parent. That's why it has very less time consuming, and the sexual reproduction has a time consumption is much less. So that's why vegetative propagation is preferred mostly in the tissue culture. Next question that could be asked from this particular section is, what is tissue culture? What is tissue culture? What are its different steps which has to be performed in order to prepare a particular ornamental plant or a particular plant? Okay. And why is it performed? What is the importance of tissue culture? In this way, different types of questions could be asked from a particular topic. Okay. So it needs to be prepared well. So I have got you understood about the tissue culture in this particular video session of ours, that what is it and how is it performed. It is particularly in its different steps are involved. First of all, the plants are collected in which the tissue culture has to be performed. It is an artificial means through which a plant is reproduced. Okay. Now next, let's learn something about sexual reproduction too. Sexual reproduction is actually performed in different organisms, in plants as well. Okay, so in sexual reproduction, mainly the plants undergo sexual reproduction are of two types, angiosperms and gymnosperms. I think that you have learned in class 9. Okay, so in some seeds are available and in some seeds are not available. So let me give some hint in this session, and we will complete in another session of ours. So in sexual reproduction, actually, plants reproduce through the help of pollen grains. The most particular step for the plants to give rise to a daughter cell through sexual reproduction are, first one is fertilization, first one is pollination, second one is fertilization. Okay, so what is pollination and fertilization actually? Let's understand it in detail here. Pollination is transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a male flower to the stigma of a female flower. That is what called as pollination. It is the transfer of pollen grains, transfer of pollen grains from anther of one flower, or we should say one flower or the male part or male flower, to stigma of female flower. This is what called as pollination. Actually, this is the foremost step of reproduction in plants, sexual reproduction in plants, because if the transfer of pollen grains does not take place, they can't reproduce sexually. It is the very important step in the reproduction of plants. And after the transfer of pollen grains, the fertilization takes place, in which pollen grains meet with the ova or the female ovum, with which they can go undergo fertilization, where the zygote could be produced, and hence they could complete with the respective sexual process of reproduction. Okay, so here let's understand the types of pollination too. Pollination types. It could be through two ways mainly. First one is self-pollination, self-pollination, and the second one is cross-pollination. Self-pollination is something in which self-pollination is something in which the same plant, in the same plant, the male and female parts are present, and the pollination is done in the same plant only. No medium or no other way is required for pollination, and that's why self-pollination is done. That means one plant body is sufficient here. Next, cross-pollination is something when the transfer of pollen grains takes place between two different plants, between two plant bodies. That is called as cross-pollination actually. And mostly the cross-pollination, different mediums are required in order to transfer the pollen grains. Through these different mediums, the pollen grains could be transferred from one plant body to the another between two plant bodies, and hence, when once the pollen grains are transferred, they could regenerate or reproduce the new plant. Okay, so that's what called as cross pollination. Now, what are the particular mediums through which pollen grains are transferred? Let's discuss here. Mediums of transfer, mediums for transfer of pollen grains. Mediums of transfer for pollen grains. Different mediums through which pollen grains could be transferred are like, one is water, then second one is insects, then third one is air. These are some of the mediums through which pollen grains could be transferred. Now, how is it transferred through water? The plants which are reproducing in water actually, their pollen grains are transferred through water only. Okay, so in this way, water transfers the pollen grains. Also through insects, like some plants, the insects get and comes sit on the particular plant. Like this is the male plant on which insect sits, and here pollen grains get stick to it on its feathers. And when this particular insect sits on the another plant which is female, this particular insect goes and sits on the another plant which is female and distributes all the pollen grains on the female part. And in this way, the transfer of pollen grains takes place. Okay, so in this way, the insects transfer the pollen grains, and through air, only those pollen grains could be transferred which are light in weight. They should be light in weight so that they can transfer pollen grains easily. Okay, so I think it's quite understood here what are different mediums of pollination or pollen grains could be transferred. So what are the other questions could be given from this particular part? Like first one is what is pollination actually? They could ask what is pollination. They could ask what is pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from one part of flower, that is anther, to the stigma. Next one is second question that could be asked is what is the importance of pollination? Yes, why is it important or pollination is necessary? Pollination is necessary here because without pollination, the pollen grains can't be transferred from anther of a male flower to the stigma of the female flower, and when the pollination is not done or the pollen grains are not transferred, the fertilization, that is the next step, could not be undergone. Okay, so that's why importance of pollination is this, that they need to be transferred in order to go through fertilization. Next question that could be asked here is What is pollination is okay. What is pollination is asked. Next question could be asked here is types of pollination. What are different types of pollination? So types of pollination I have let you understood. There are two types: self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination is something which is done in single plant only. When the pollination has to be done in single plant, that is the male and female part both are present in same plant. Then second one is cross pollination. Cross pollination is done when both the plants or both the parts of plants are different, like they are present on different trees or they are present on different flowers, so they undergo the cross pollination process. Now, in cross pollination, different mediums are required for pollination. So, different mediums for this. Next question could be asked like, what are the different mediums of pollination? Mediums of pollination. The different mediums of pollination are water, air, and insects. Through water, the pollination could be done or transfer of pollen grains could be done. Then through water, the particular plant has to be present inside the water only, so that water can transfer pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. Next, insects could transfer it. Insects have to get on the male flower, and when pollen grains stick to their body, and when they sit on the another female body, the sticked pollen grains get detached and hence they can transfer the pollen grains. Next, last medium of transferring is air. Through air, they could be transferred easily. Like through air, they can only be transferred when they are light in weight. Okay. So that was all about today's video or today's session. I think you have liked this session. Hello, sir. Is it okay?